Hello dear students, our today's topic is molecular basis of genetic information. In this module, you will know about how traits are passed from one generation to next, how Griffith's work coupled with research of Avery and his colleagues demonstrated that DNA, not protein, is a genetic material, how Hershey-Chase blender experiments confirm Griffith's result, how Conant and co-workers solved the doubts regarding some viruses composed of proteins and RNA, but not DNA as a molecule of genetic information. The most important advances in human thought in 20th century were that the patterns of heredity can be explained by the segregation of chromosomes in meiosis. Mendel's and Morgan's work on pea plants and Drosophila respectively demonstrated that traits can be transmitted from parent to offspring in many different combinations. This work led directly to the formation of science of genetics. Scientists are now able to describe in considerable detail the mechanisms by which the information on chromosomes is converted into traits that pea plants, fruit flies, and human beings exhibit. A Danish biologist, Joachim Hemmerling, approached this question in 1943 by choosing large unicellular green alga Stabularia. Stabularia has a distinct base, stalk, and cap regions, all of which are differentiated parts of a single cell. To test his hypothesis, Hemmerling selected individuals from two species of Stabularia, that is, Stabularia mediterrana and Stabularia crenulata. Stabularia mediterrana has a smooth disc-shaped cap. In his experiments, Hemmerling grafted the stalk of one species of Stabularia onto the foot of another species. In all cases, the cap that eventually developed on the grafted cell matched the species of the foot rather than that of the stalk. In this example, the cap that is allowed to grow on the grafted stalk looks like the base species. This experiment shows that the base is responsible for the type of cap that grows. The nucleus that contains genetic information is in the base, so the nucleus directs cellular development. The identification of nucleus as the source of heredity information focused attention on the chromosomes, which had already been shown to be the vehicles of Mendelian inheritance. Specifically, biologists wondered how the actual heredity information was arranged in the chromosomes. They knew that chromosomes contain both protein and DNA, but on which of these was the heredity information written? Most researchers thought that protein was the genetic material because proteins are macromolecules with great heterogeneity and functional specificity. Little was known about nucleic acids. The physical and the chemical properties of DNA seemed too uniform to account for the multitude of inherited traits. In 1928, Frederick Griffith performed experiments that provided evidence that genetic material is a specific molecule. Griffith was trying to find a vaccine against Streptococcus pneumoniae, a bacterium that causes pneumonia in mammals. He knew that there were two distinguishable strains of pneumococcus. One produces smooth colonies, that is S, and other produced rough colonies, that is R. Cells of the smooth strain were encapsulated with a polysaccharide coat and cells of the rough strain were not. These alternative phenotypes, that is S and R, were inherited. Griffith performed 4 sets of experiments. Experiment number 1. Griffith injected live S strain of Streptococcus pneumoniae into mice. Result: mice died of pneumonia. Conclusions: encapsulated strain was pathogenic. Experiment number 2. Mice were injected with live R strain. Results: mice survived and were healthy. Conclusions: the bacterial strain lacking the polysaccharide coat was non-pathogenic. Experiment number 3. Mice were injected with heat-killed S strain of pneumococcus. Results: mice survived and were healthy. Conclusion is: polysaccharide coat did not cause pneumonia because it was still present in heat-killed bacteria, which proved to be non-pathogenic. Experiment number 4. Heat-killed S cells mixed with live R cells were injected into mice. Results: mice developed pneumonia and died. Blood samples from dead mice contained live S cells. Conclusions: R cells had acquired from the dead S cells the ability to make polysaccharide coats. Griffith cultured S cells from the dead mice. Since the dividing bacteria produced encapsulated daughter cells, he concluded that this newly acquired trait was inheritable. This phenomena is now called transformation. What was the chemical nature of transforming agent? Griffith was unable to answer this question, but other scientists continued the search. Griffith's experiment hinted that protein is not a genetic material. He denatures protein, yet it did not destroy the transforming ability of the genetic material in the heat-killed S cells. In 1944, after a decade of research, Oswald Avery, Maclean McCarthy, and Colin MacLeod discovered that the transforming agent had to be DNA. These scientists succeeded in characterizing the agent responsible for transformation in S. pneumoniae and called it transforming principle. Its properties resembled those of DNA rather than protein in that the activity of the transforming principle was not affected by protein destroying enzymes, but was lost completely in presence of DNA destroying enzyme DNase. The discovery by Avery and his co-workers was not widely appreciated at first. Many biologists stubbornly preferred to believe that proteins were the source of hereditary information. This preference for proteins was probably due to the chemical interest being paid to proteins at this time and to the lack of experiments being conducted on the chemical nature of nucleic acids. However, convincing experiments with viruses soon made DNA difficult to ignore. Viruses are simply RNA or DNA packaged with a protein coat. These new experiments focused on bacteriophages, which are viruses that infect a bacterial cell. It first binds to the cell's outer surface and then injects its hereditary information into the cell. There, the hereditary information directs the production of thousands of new virus particles within the bacterial cell. The host bacterial cell eventually bursts or lyses, releasing the newly made viruses. In 1952, Alfred Hershey and Martha Chase set out to identify the material that a bacteriophage injects into a bacterial cell at the start of an infection. They used a strain of bacteriophage known as T2, which contains DNA rather than RNA, and designated an experiment to determine whether the genetic material was DNA or protein. Hershey and Chase used a technique known as labeling, which is the introduction of a radioactive isotope of a particular element into a molecule so that source of that molecule can be identified and its pathway can be followed. Step first. Viral protein and DNA were tagged with different radioactive isotopes. Protein tagging. T2 and E. coli were grown in media with radioactive sulfur, which was incorporated only into the phage protein. DNA tagging. T2 and E. coli were grown in media containing radioactive phosphorus, which was incorporated only into the phage DNA. Step 2. Protein labeled and DNA labeled T2 phages were allowed to infect separate samples of non-radioactive E. coli cells. Step 3. Cultures were agitated to shake loose phages that remained outside the bacterial cells. Step 4. Mixtures were centrifuged, forcing the heavier bacterial cells into a pellet on the bottom of the tubes. The lighter viruses remained in the supernatant. Step 5. Radioactivity in the pellet and the supernatant was measured and compared. Results. In tubes with E. coli infected with protein labeled T2, most of the radioactivity was in the supernatant with viruses. In tubes with E. coli infected with DNA labeled T2, most of the radioactivity was in the pellet with the bacterial cells. When the bacteria containing DNA labeled phages were returned to the culture media, the bacteria released phage progeny which contained radioactive phosphorus in their DNA. Conclusions. First, viral proteins remain outside the host cell. Second, viral DNA is injected into the host cell. Third, injected DNA molecules cause cells to produce additional viruses with more viral DNA and proteins. Number 4. These data provided evidence that nucleic acids rather than proteins were the hereditary material. Even with the evidence provided by the Hershey-Chase experiments, one objection could still be raised about the hypothesis that DNA is genetic material. Some viruses contain no DNA and yet to manage to reproduce themselves. What is a genetic material then? In 1957, Hans Frankel, Conant and co-workers isolated tobacco mosaic virus TMV from tobacco leaves. From ribgrass, that is Plantago lanceolata, a common weed, they isolated a second rather similar kind of virus, Holmes ribgrass virus or HRV. In both TMV and HRV, the viruses consist of a protein and a single strand of RNA. After isolating these viruses, the scientists broke them up, separating their protein from their RNA. By putting the protein component of one virus with the RNA of another, they were able to produce hybrid virus particles. To determine whether the genetic material of viruses is protein or RNA, Frankel Conant infected healthy tobacco plants with a hybrid virus composed of TMV protein coats and HRV RNA, being careful not to include any non-hybrid virus particles. The tobacco leaves that were infected with hybrid virus particles developed the lesions that were characteristics of HRV and that normally formed on infected ribgrass. Clearly, the virus's hereditary properties were determined by RNA in its core and not by protein in its coat. Additional evidence which pointed to DNA as a genetic material in eukaryotes are: a eukaryotic cell doubles its DNA content prior to mitosis. During mitosis, the doubled DNA is equally divided between two daughter cells. An organism's diploid cell have twice the DNA as its haploid gametes. Experimental evidence for DNA as a hereditary material in eukaryotes came from the laboratory of Erwin Chargaff. In 1947, he analyzed the DNA composition of different organisms. Using paper chromatography to separate nitrogenous bases, Chargaff reported the following: DNA composition is species specific. The amount and the ratios of nitrogenous bases vary from one species to another. This source of molecular diversity made it more credible that DNA is a genetic material. In every species he studied, there was a regularity in the base ratios. The number of adenine, that is A residues, approximately equal to the number of thymine, that is T, and the number of guanines G equal to the number of cytosines, that is C. The A equal to T and G equal to C equalities became known later as Chargaff's rule. We have seen that by various experiments cited above, deoxyribonucleic acid DNA and ribonucleic acid RNA are the two types of nucleic acids found in living systems. DNA acts as a genetic material in most of the organisms. It is a long polymer of deoxyribonucleotides covalently linked by 3' to 5' phosphodiester bonds and exists as a double-stranded molecule wound with each other in a spiral known as double helix. In a double helix, one strand runs 3' to 5' direction, while in other it runs in opposite direction. Thus, the two complementary strands run in antiparallel manner. RNA, though it also acts as a genetic material in some viruses, mostly functions as a messenger. RNA has additional roles as well as it functions as adapter, structural, and in some cases as a catalytic molecule. Dear students, this was all about today's lecture. Thank you.